Welcome back to Galactic Reviews. This week we watched the movie Pinocchio. This is the new live action sort of style-esque Pinocchio, sort of the trend that's been going on with Disney. So there's that. Overall, even if I wasn't comparing it to the original, I would say it's still kind of bland in just the way that it portrayed like the characters, the way it acted, just the way that the story was told. And then there was the CGI, which was abysmal in a lot of places, especially the water. I think the water was one of the worst times that the CGI was there, especially at the end. That was horrible. Yeah, when comparing it to the original, it's pales in comparison. Like or hate the original, because I know the original does get a little bit dark in a lot of places. However, comparing to this to the original, which is the only reason why they really made it anyway, was how good the original was. This pales in comparison to it, just not as good as it could have been. So I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 10. There's definitely some cool things that do happen, some funny, good things that do happen, like when Pinocchio is like rambling on to Geppetto, and it's like a whole long run-on sentence, and then Geppetto's like processing it in his head for like a good 2 minutes, and is like, "You did that all in one day?" Thought that was funny. Like just some funny things that they did here and there. I thought Jiminy Cricket design was all right. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. Thought it was probably about as good as they were going to get for a live action adaptation. So, but yeah, 3 out of 10.
Gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This is one of my more favorite live action movies. It was quite enjoyable. I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was a faithful adaptation of the original story, and they changed up what they needed to change, and they did a good job of adapting what they could to be CGI and altering what they couldn't to change some different details. Like I don't remember the shadow monsters, but I can't see any type of grown man just throwing around donkeys. So I thought it was a clever solution that wasn't explained, but I mean it worked. Otherwise, I couldn't see how they'd have to find some other weird way of fixing that issue. I liked the CGI. I liked how the characters looked. Sometimes it did look cartoony, mainly with the way Pinocchio looked, but I thought it looked great, especially when comparing it to it from a 2D, old 2D movie to a not a major project that this was. Tom Hanks, I thought he did a great job. I quite enjoyed his character. It was very refreshing after having seen him last in Elvis. I really liked that they kept the old songs. It was very nostalgic in a nice way. Thought the casting was very good. The performances were quite good. Overall, I haven't seen Lion King, so I don't know how to, I haven't seen a chunk of the live action movies. I really enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. I haven't seen Aladdin, but I overall I quite enjoyed this movie. Surprised me. It looked better than I expected it to. It was funnier and just an overall good Pinocchio.
Trying to think of a good kind of question to start us off with. Us starting to hate each other for the next 10 minutes. So you haven't seen any of the other like live action stuff?
Not many of them.
You seen Jungle Book?
Nope.
I mean, I really got nothing because it's just like one of those ones where we're like on such opposite sides where it's just like we're not going to come to an agreement. I will agree on one thing. I did like the old songs, however, they are old songs from the original stuff, and I'm kind of just like, what did this new one sort of bring to the table of Pinocchio as it is live action, and kind of add to it more. Stuff I didn't like was I didn't like how they cut some of the darkness of some things out, and I get why they did it. However, like some of the stuff they could have sort of left in instead of it being like Pinocchio somewhat coddled into the sort of limelight and fame at first. Would have liked to seen him more so kind of come to that conclusion of oh snap, this isn't really good before he was like thrown into the cage. I just finished the movie like 10 minutes ago, so I'm trying to like put it all together. But there was something off about that scene that kept it from being as dark as it could have been, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Where
Mm-hmm.
like the guy is the kid is imprisoned, so would like to have seen something a little bit darker from that instead of just, oh, he's in a cage, all that stuff. Jiminy Cricket was, I think his character was somewhat underused. Oh, I know what the problem with that is. Pinocchio in the original, he actually gets coaxed by the fox and the cat. I think his name is Honest John and Gideon. Get
Yeah.
coaxed by them into wanting to do fame. And he never goes to school in the original. And that's why Jiminy Cricket kind of just lets him do it, lets him do it. And then, but he's there to help him out when he gets stuck inside that cage. Whereas in this one, it's different and it doesn't feel as much of like a lesson is learned here. If that makes sense, because he didn't like disobey and he didn't disobey as much as he did in the original, whereas he didn't learn a lesson from that going into this. So that's one thing that I guess was off to me about that scene, and the way that he was somewhat sort of coddled into that by the puppetress,
Hmm.
and how she sort of like coddled him in like some of the stuff, whereas in the original, like Stromboli's not that great to him at all. And you see that more so in that than in this. Like, granted, he's not good to him in this either, but just very much less so. So it's just not as good as it was in the. It doesn't make the point as much in that one, in this one,
Hmm.
as it did in that one. I don't know why they. Well, I know why they race changed the Blue Fairy. I just don't think it's necessary.
I don't think it's necessary that it matters.
I don't think so either. But then why would they change it?
So what about them changing the beer to root beer and taking out the smoking?
Oh no, I didn't like that either.
Why?
In the
The
movie, they bring
message
about
the
in
message is indulging in temptations is wrong.
I
And
know, but in the movie, that kind of stuff is shown as wrong in the old movie as well. So I don't know why they took
because
that out of this one.
you can't show kids smoking
I
and
mean,
drinking
I
to a
get
large
that.
audience.
So I get that to a from a like publicity, like we might get in trouble sort of thing. That's why I thought they called it root beer, and then I thought one kid said root beer. What is this kid thinking? I get like not. I get in a live action setting, you kind of gotta hold that a little bit back. However, to me, that
Mhm.
also takes off the tenacity of how horrible these kids were and how dire they were willing to rebel regardless of the consequences, which this movie kind of shows but not as grave as it did in the last one. And I get this one with the drinking and the smoking is kind of like due to like you can't really show kids doing this.
Yeah.
So, and I get they could get away with it in a cartoon back then, but that is also still the tale. So I'm kind of that one. I'm like, I get it, but I also like would have liked to have seen that been a little bit more faithful. But I get it. But one thing I don't quite like is in this one, Pinocchio. His character is very much changed. He goes from being this rebellious little boy to being wanting to always please his father. In this one, he kind of just doesn't go from being like this character with flaws to being this character that had to being this like better character at the end of it. He was basically the same character throughout, and the only one that really went through that change was Geppetto, in all honesty, because he went from wanting Pinocchio to be a real boy to accepting Pinocchio as being his boy, if that makes sense. Whereas in the old one, Pinocchio always accepted him as his own boy, and Pinocchio was kind of mischievous and then went on this journey and became a better person because of it. And this one, Pinocchio just stays the same. I guess that's where this one kind of like, I guess that's where the point where it really kind of hurts me the most on this one.
Mhm. It's been so long since I've seen the original one. I honestly can't even
Did you
compare
see
it
the,
that closely.
yeah, well, I haven't seen the original one in a long time. That's just from what I remember about the original stuff. Did you see like the horrible water CGI on you didn't see that?
I wasn't paying attention to it.
Uh, Also with the root beer CGI, that wasn't the greatest either.
I mean, that made sense
Why not just have actual glasses of root beer?
because you can't have a CGI fake character holding a real glass, and a real glass next to a CGI glass would look very out of place. I feel like if you're paying attention to it, like the CGI doesn't look real. I think it would look more out of place if you had real next to fake.
I get that, but if that is like if that is the case, why wouldn't they like up the why wouldn't they make the CGI at least look more fluid? If you look at the way that the root beer moves when the guy is like when they're moving it around,
Mhm.
it doesn't look real at all, and you can tell it's fake as heck. And that's even worse when it comes to the water at towards the end of that scene, and you can like Tom Hanks is laying on the beach and you can tell it's so fake. Yeah, it's just the CGI. In some cases it was okay, and I thought it was decently well done. In other cases, it was horrible, and that's another one where it's like that was another big factor where it pulled me out of the movie. And I was like, wow, this really made it through. But I don't know. I was hoping for better, if that makes sense.
Just a budget thing. I don't assume this was a big project. So
I don't assume so either. However, I just feel like they could have done better, if that makes sense. And also, Pinocchio was really small compared to what I thought he would have been, like height wise. Like I thought he would have been like more so 7-year-old kind of height, Instead he was more so like a 3 or 4-year-old kind of height. He was kind of
yeah,
like a foot or two smaller than most of the kids. Because he in the um other thing, he is the same size as the kid he's playing pool with.
was
He's
he?
yeah, in the animated movie, I think. He's
Because
he's
because
he's
his
shorter. He's shorter, but he's not in this movie. Not in this movie. I'm talking about the animated.
yeah, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, he was. I
his
think the
height
other
didn't.
kid, the other kid was taller just because he had a skinny head, but he was around the same size, maybe like a half a foot difference. It wasn't as drastic as this film made it to be.
I mean, honestly, it's been forever since I've even looked at the original,
Yeah,
but he seemed like a normal what a puppet would be size.
I mean, yeah, that I will give it that. He did seem like the right size for a puppet. It's just he seems like he acts more like he's around the 7 to 8 range, but looks about the 4 to 5 range. I don't know. That just seemed odd to me.
All right, thank you everybody for this week's tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed our banter back and forth, polar opposite, borderline debates at times.
This usually ends up being the thing with me and you. I don't know why.
Um,
Maybe it's because I have hair here and you have hair here. Do you think that comes into effect?
Next week, Don't Worry, Darling comes out as of this weekend, which stars Florence Pugh, and I don't care who else is in the movie.
I think Chris Pine is in it.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, next time, Don't Worry, Darling.